for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
Welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
I'm Katy Steele.
And I'm Jack Prince.
Boy, we got a lot to talk about today. A lot of bad news to pass along to everybody. So
that's what we do.
We're gonna get some good news first, though, before we get going in with all the bad, yucky stuff today. Also, we have 2 winners for Hammer Time this week, so we'll get into that a little bit later. Before we get started with today's show, a couple of reminders. You can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can follow us on YouTube by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker.com or at Stitcher.com by doing a search for Southpaws. We're also on Apple Podcasts. Just do a search for Southpaws. Once you found our logo, you found us. We send links to our weekly episodes to our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube accounts. You can listen to us on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Saturday night at 11 Eastern. And you can listen to us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, WOOL in Bellows Falls, Vermont, and KEPJ in San Antonio, Texas. So make sure you listen to us there as well. If you have a local Pacifica station, please donate your time and or your money. They could always use the help there. So after we finished recording last week's episode is when we finally got the verdict. Well, not the verdict, but we received the sentencing for Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis cop who murdered George Floyd. 24 and a half years in prison. Are you guys shocked by that?
22 and a half.
Was it 22 and a half? Okay.
I'm not necessarily shocked by it, no.
Yeah?
No, I think they had to give him something. I think after a good time, I don't think that'll end up being anything. There are people who served longer sentences than that for weed charges.
Mm-hmm.
And technically, what was he officially charged with? He
was convicted of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter.
Yeah, no, I think there should be specific charges for cop murders, first of all. I hate the fact that you're going to give anybody that's a cop a second-degree murder. How do you get a second-degree murder when you're the guy that is supposed to enforce the laws?
Yeah.
Any murder is first degree, right?
Yeah. Well, we also know that there's no way that legislators are going to write laws to keep the cops under control.
Well, exactly.
Because they're enforcing the status quo.
Yeah. The truth is, our system never would have uncovered this crime. It was a, 13-year-old girl?
17, I think.
17-year-old girl? That's the real hero. Or there'd been no time.
Absolutely.
22 years.
Yeah, I agree there. She is a hero.
It's true. He's not even human, though. He was one of the scariest ones I've seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the video and looking at his face outside of that video, I feel like that man is not only some level of sociopath, but maybe a robot, too.
Yeah, well, he's going away. We'll see if there's any appeals. They tried to vacate the sentence immediately and asked for a retrial, and the judge said no. So we'll see what happens down the road here. There's still 3 more cops that are going to get prosecuted on this. So we'll see what happens. That's the thing, too.
I mean, how do you compare their actions and sentences considering what happened, you know?
Yeah.
Seeing the abuser of women for decades with a shot and a hypnotist bounce out, it probably buoyed all the lawyers for Chauvin.
Oh God, let's get right into that
because they know, let this sit a couple years, right? and then we'll come back with the mistrial. The judge will be gone. They get a new conservative judge. They've already got a strategy mapped out.
Oh, yeah. They already made him promises, too. I mean, the fact that they're playing it out like, oh, we made him this promise, and then the state came back on the promise, and so that makes all of this unconstitutional. Like, no, you promised him that this is how it was going to go down, and now you're fulfilling those promises. And power begets power, and everybody else, nobody gets justice. There's no such thing as justice, and your fake justice system doesn't work.
There is justice. Yeah. It's called criminal justice. United States has criminal justice.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, justice for the criminals, and the rest of us get screwed.
Yeah, the criminals are enforcing them.
And it's amazing. Most Americans would have repeated what I said 10 times before it dawned on them. That we have a criminal justice system.
So what we're talking about, we might as well just start with the bad news. Bill Cosby let out of jail this week. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court said that he could not have been tried because he had an agreement with a previous prosecutor in 2007 that he would not be criminally prosecuted. And then supposedly what happened was Cosby testified in a civil lawsuit, which in discovery he admitted everything that he did and had to pay up a lot of money. So then a new prosecutor comes in, takes Cosby's testimony from the civil suit and prosecutes him, and they lock him up in jail. So
anybody who has ever been to court or been prosecuted for something and dealt with a prosecutor knows that they make you a lot of deals. And they make you a lot of promises. And the last thing they tell you before you walk in to get your sentence from a judge is that all those things they promised you don't matter because they can walk right back out and rescind them the second they walk into the courtroom. So help me understand why that's not the case for Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Money and power.
I can tell you why. I've said it on the show. I'll say it right here, right now. Wealth is the biggest privilege of them all. More than gender, more than race, more than religion.
Bingo.
It's money.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
Money
here's an
talks.
Example.
Go ahead.
Link Up. Link Up posted a bunch of different memes. Now, Link Up is a private 501c3 organization here in Grand Rapids that, well, no, you know what? I lied. It wasn't Link Up. It was the Red Project.
Really?
Yes, the Red Project is actually across the street from Link Up, which is why my brain conflated the two. But the Red Project actually helps pass out Narcan pens. They get assistance for people with addiction issues. I really like the Red Project. But they put out a meme group regarding housing and homelessness recently. And the second image that they posted said, homelessness is caused by the following things. And they listed
I saw that meme.
A bunch of them. And it had poverty, it had addiction, it had mental health issues, low wages, all kinds of different stuff. And it really frustrated me because for an organization like that, we need to see the difference here, which is that I know all kinds of rich people with mental health issues. I know rich people that, live in areas where housing is expensive. I know rich people who have addiction problems. I have never met a rich houseless person. So the only thing that causes houselessness is not having money to pay the bill.
Absolutely.
Not having money to buy the house or pay the rent. That's a lack of money. That's it. And when we start making it about other things and saying, it's like you have to really talk about the source of the problem or you're just continuing the problem.
Absolutely right.
No, I think that the most sickening thing is the defenders of, the very brave women have some horrible stories. I was listening just yesterday. Just a young girl that was abused, woke up with bruises all over her body. Can only imagine what was done to her. And those are vivid. But what is disgusting to me are people, and they're out there, like Miss Rashad, as in Phylicia Rashad, who came out and immediately, upon news yesterday, tweeted that this terrible wrong is finally being righted. A miscarriage of justice is corrected. Now, you would think that Phylicia might be out at a biker's clubhouse somewhere in California on the beach, right? The ex-star of a sitcom. No, she is on the East Coast. She is the dean of Howard University. I say Howard University as in Kamala University. Yeah. As in the most revered
black college
with the most so-called civil rights history of any black college in the United States.
Yep. And what does she call the atrocious violation of justice?
Cosby going to jail.
Yeah, this civil story that they gave us. That's the atrocious violation. Is somebody
shocking.
in power and rich going to jail?
Yeah.
Not these girls getting violated, you know.
You said power and rich. That's the scale. The blind woman holding the scales of liberty.
Yes.
She's blind, but she can feel the gold on one of those damn scales.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lady
It's that
Justice. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. The actress that played Aunt Viv on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air lashed out at Phylicia Rashad for those
Really?
comments.
Good.
So, yeah, Phylicia Rashad, who, by the way, is married to former NFL star Ahmad Rashad.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Just a ugly, her comments, she should get douchebag of the week for that. Unfortunately,
she should be an honorable mention anyway.
It happened a little too late for that. Oh my God! Let me see. I've got this. This is.
I guess can we talk about what? I don't remember anybody like jumping out to defend him until later. Like I don't feel like the right jumped out to defend Bill Cosby until cancel culture was actually a thing, right? When they started canceling white people, then it was like an issue. But I definitely don't remember everybody jumping out to defend Bill Cosby from day one.
Look,
many.
Here, I've got this. This is Matt Wilstein writing for the Daily Beast. This is dated June 30th. In an unexpected showdown between a pair of iconic sitcom moms, Janet Hubert came for Phylicia Rashad Wednesday afternoon when the Cosby Show star celebrated Bill Cosby's release from prison after a sex assault conviction was overturned by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So here's how she responded. Quote, Phylicia, what are you thinking? I don't know you, but to say this was terribly wrong. Everyone knew what he was doing back then. Yep. How could you not? Get your umbrella, sister. Here comes the shower. I am outraged that he has been released. Yes, he is an old-ass guilty man. End of quote.
I like it when they're real.
Well, who's the Hollywood mogul that would interview the women? What was his name?
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Was it Harvey Weinstein? Because I always get him mistaken with Jeffrey Epstein.
Well,
because they're very
same
much
batch.
alike. Yeah.
Weinstein's
You wonder
going to
about
be extradited back to Los Angeles because he's going to face charges there, too.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Good.
They announced that a couple of weeks ago.
Remember this guy showed up in court with crutches all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Just for-
with
did
a
he? I didn't even
walker.
see that.
Oh, I'm a frail old man. No, you're just guilty as hell. And you're just trying to gain sympathy.
Oh, they had like a special about his ex-wife and on Facebook, and it was totally just to buy sympathy for his kids and his ex-wife. And about how she totally thought they were in this great... She had no idea what he was and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just reading this going, oh my gosh, they're trying to save his kids. They are trying to save it. This is so sick.
Who's going to try and save the Jewish attorney that was arrested yesterday with handcuffs on?
We'll get to that in just a minute here.
Let me Weinstein around.
Let me continue. Hubert continued. She wrote, quote, I would have said he's old, he's out, and I'm happy for him, but he's still guilty.
Yep.
I know 5 women who have not come forward. Enough. Y'all, we know better. Powerful men do wrong things, black or white.
That's
End
true.
of quote.
That's true.
And it's upsetting, I'm sure, for the black community who, you know, you have very few examples of a stable black successful family in TV. And so to take one of the few examples they've had and...
But there is an overlap between the black community and the white power structure here.
Oh,
for sure.
Absolutely.
You know what it is? It's abuse of women. It's
There
the
you go.
authority. There's no place more rigid with God's order of authority, which is the head of the house, than in black communities. And I'll take a step farther.
Very
I've never
true.
run into such vicious homophobia as in the black.
Very
And it
true.
would only make sense because they're derivatives of a long history of black evangelical affiliation in the South.
Oh, the stories that I could tell about homophobia spoken by prior volunteer when I was running. You know exactly who I'm talking about.
Sure do.
And I'm not going to mention his name because he doesn't deserve the publicity. But I heard it behind the scenes. I'll just leave it at that until I decide I'm going to expose everybody and I won't care anymore.
Hey, listen, I was a teacher in a school that was manned by an African-American principal, and I witnessed a young man, African-American, hit his girlfriend right in the face, knock her over a table in the lunchroom. So we met after school, and I pointed out, there's no acceptance of this. This is zero tolerance.
Right.
But you don't know what she was saying. Hold it. There's no acceptance of this. He's out now. And I had to argue for an hour to convince them because they wanted to track down what she had done, what she was guilty of.
Yeah.
That is insane to me.
And this is a leader in the black community.
I was in high school. I had a black principal, and I definitely was in an abusive relationship. And I'm glad I had guys like you they took care of justice for me before we ever got to the principal's office.
I'm not saying the whole fabric of the black community is like that. There's progressives there, but they'll agree with you with civil rights. They'll agree with you about the abuse of the black slave, et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes to, as Darren said, true. Homophobia, they're not there yet.
Yeah.
And huge swaths, not the whole kit and caboodle.
Which is surprising because I don't know statistics, but there's a pretty significant size LGBTQ community within the African American community.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
it's certainly not homogeneous, but they're lagging in that area, in my opinion. I know. And the thing with Cosby is that this is a celebrity who is a comedian. This is a celebrity who I remember in high school parties where you'd get Bill Cosby records out, and I'm talking back in the '60s.
Oh yeah.
This guy was an icon, not just in the black community, across America.
Right.
Yeah. I Spy. He was that was where he got his big claim to fame, and then he started doing the Saturday morning Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids.
Oh yeah.
Now that's what I grew up on was Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. I loved it.
It's Fat Albert.
Yeah. I was telling a couple of our listeners earlier this week. I said there's one thing that I regret not doing years ago. I had the opportunity, and when I was still running the radio station in Kentwood, that I should have. I had lyrics, a parody to the Fat Albert theme. You think I can remember the lyrics now? Oh, no. All I remember was that the chorus was, nah, 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 gonna have a bad time. Yeah. Rashad, back to the story from the Daily Beast. Rashad tried to walk this back, by the way. And like you said, Jack, she was just recently named the Dean of Howard University's reestablished College of Fine Arts. So here's what she tweeted. Quote, I fully support survivors of sexual assault coming forward. My post was in no way intended to be insensitive to their truth. Personally, I know from friends and family that such abuse has lifelong residual effects. My heartfelt wishes for healing. End of quote.
Nice try.
Yeah. No, you don't support survivors of sexual assault.
I'm just going to put out two completely contradicting statements so that way everybody gets to hear what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
She was worried that Aunt Viv was going to come and beat that ass is what it was.
Right? I've got 5 on Aunt Viv.
Yeah. You don't mess with Aunt Viv. Another woman of color you don't mess with, Gwen Berry.
Mm-hmm.
I got this. This is NBC News by Daniela Silva. This is dated June 28th. Hammer thrower Gwen Berry, who turned away from the American flag as the national anthem played as she stood on a podium during the U.S. Olympic track and field trials, said she felt blindsided by the timing of the song. Yeah, they told her they were going to play the song at, I believe, 5:20 in the afternoon. They were 5 minutes past that when they played the song. She felt set up, and you know what? I agree with her.
Oh, they absolutely set her up.
Yep.
They play it one time every day. One time, and it just happened to be when she was up there to get her medal.
Yeah.
No,
they won't let it go.
Setup.
This is Kaepernick on steroids.
This is everything they wanted. They wanted that photo of that white girl in first place.
Yep.
With her hand on her heart.
Yep. You're there to represent America.
Yep.
America.
And the black girl behind her being disobedient, right?
Yep.
It was the disobedience that they highlighted here.
There are some things they'll never, ever get over. One of them is Jane in Vietnam sitting on the tank. Right?
Jane Fonda.
Yep. They'll never, ever get over that. And the next one is John Carlos in the 60s. Do you remember John Carlos?
No.
This is where the first sign
Oh,
of defiance.
yes. The 68 Olympics.
Yeah, the world will be finished by global warming, and they'll still have hatred in the rocks on this globe for John Carlos because of what he did. He stood up there and gave that power sign.
He
What was
put
it?
on the black glove and then raised his fist as the national anthem was being
and
played.
that was how many years ago? 50 years ago.
68
and that
is when it happened.
that is absolutely what inspired Kaepernick.
Yeah,
and that,
exactly.
Yeah, that's what inspires all of those protests, for sure.
Any definitive stand from a black position of strength, they cannot accept it.
They can't handle it.
They'll never, ever
and
bend
it's
over.
the same way when you're dealing with a misogynist in a definitive position from a woman. You know, they can't deal with it. Like, there's just that sensitive piece of, it can't happen. I need this power and control, and they can't give it up, not holding on to their sanity, at least.
By God, you will stand for the American song of from a
You'll
bar room.
You'll stand for the flag. You'll when that song starts playing, you'll stand up. You'll take your hat off.
I sat through it at Wrigley Stadium, Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
Last week, and I think it was about 20 minutes before security came up and tried to escort me out because people complained about me.
Because you didn't stand.
Yeah. Well, they didn't complain for me sitting in the stands. They made everything else up because they were angry.
Yeah.
Why would we rejoice in Cosby's being let out when a guy named Pelletier is still in prison?
Leonard Peltier, yes, absolutely.
For doing nothing but protesting the death of infants on his reservation? Are you kidding me? And talk about flag, revering the flag. If anybody would be on their knee, it would be the parents and the survivors of these these Native Canadians who were discovered in another mass grave.
Yeah.
So horrific that the Pope is getting on a jet and flying to the survivors. This is after 800 previous. I guess the Vatican says 1,000, we got to do something. We get 1,000 sexual abuses, we got to make a statement. It's the magic number. And this is not just dead bodies. These are sexually abused Native American children.
Yeah. Real quickly on the flag, my 83-year-old mother doesn't stand for the flag either. What are you going to do? You're going to throw an 83-year-old woman out from Kentucky? I got news for you. Try it. You'll get a mouthful from her. You think I got a filthy mouth? She's 100 times worse. Where do you think I get it from?
Do you know
Because
a well-placed dirty mouth is well used.
Let them try it with me. They will remember the day because they'll never hear the word as many times as they will that day they try that on me.
They're not focused on us, though, Darren. They're focused on those little kids that they took from their parents at the border and dressed up in matching outfits and now have stuck in these little schools where they're teaching them English and the anthem. Yeah. Right? As long as they stand up and look at the flag, then everything is as it should be in the eyes of the American power.
You know who did revere our flag and our policy with the Native Americans? A guy named Adolf Hitler.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely thought it was the greatest piece of written policy. Almost as good as the eugenics program that he thought was terrific, too, where we sterilized people for years in the Appalachian Mountains. Mm-hmm. He was big on those.
Absolutely. Just read this recently. Yep.
You were mentioning Canada. We have another discovery in Canada. This is Al Jazeera television. You aren't hearing it in this
ABC,
country at any level except in isolated pockets in the local level, which I'm surprised that the TV station Cadillac posted the story.
And this has been out for a few hours, and it's way behind.
This is dated June 30th. Let me read this here. An Indigenous community in Western Canada has found 182 unmarked graves near a former boarding school for Indigenous children, the latest such discovery in recent weeks. The Lower Kootenay Band said on Wednesday that experts used ground-penetrating radar mapping to locate what are believed to be the remains of Indigenous children between the ages of 7 and 15 at St. Eugene's Mission School near Cranbrook, British Columbia. So this is another one in British Columbia.
Yep.
Separate from what was discovered at a different school. The institution, which Indigenous children were forced to attend in a state effort to assimilate them into Canadian society, was run by the Catholic Church and operated from 1890 until 1970. That's according to the Indian Residential School History and Dialogue Center. The search of the grounds began last year, the band said in a statement, and the children are believed to be members of bands of the Tunaxa Nation, which includes the Lower Kootenai and other neighboring indigenous communities. They've got a map here of all these schools that they had and when they closed.
Look at that.
So this is something else.
Looks
all
like
over.
Yeah.
New Brunswick, Nova Scotia.
Saskatchewan, yeah. Looks like the measles on North America.
Quebec, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Altoona.
Yep.
And it doesn't have any of the ones
Columbia.
in Michigan on it, I'm sure.
We have
right?
just as many
This
here.
is just Canada.
Just as many, yeah.
Oh, easily. Very easily. The CBC News talked to Chief Jason Louis of the Lower Kootenai Band. Here's what he told them. Quote, "You can never fully prepare for something like this." End of quote. Hundreds of unmarked graves have been uncovered in at least 3 other residential schools in Canada in recent weeks, plunging Indigenous communities that had known for decades about deaths at the institutions into a sense of renewed grief and anguish. Canada's residential school system operated from the late 1800s until the 1990s. It was part of a wider colonial project that aimed to take over Indigenous lands and forcibly assimilate First Nation, Métis, and Inuit children. Various churches, including most notably the Roman Catholic Church, ran at least 139 residential schools across Canada, and thousands of Indigenous children are believed to have died while attending the institutions. We had mentioned previously on this show, late last month, 215 Indigenous children's remains were found at Kamloops Indian Residential School in British Columbia. We told you 2 weeks ago about 751 unmarked graves at Marieville Indian Residential School in Saskatchewan. So this gets worse.
I just keep wondering, though, because I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with my own family. Mm-hmm. And now I'm questioning, did these people think their kids were given up for adoption in some cases? Because these are the same years we were taking their babies.
Oh, yeah, they never knew.
And
That's
they never
a
knew where their
possibility.
kids ended up, right? And so my mom's story from birth that she was given was that she was taken from a Native family. So my question now, knowing that she has no Native blood, is there a Native family who thinks their baby was given up for adoption at the same time that my mother was, who perhaps may have been a product of something else, you know? I'm just confused as far as how they were hiding this. You know, when you think about Catholic social services and the reservations and how they were taking these kids and how they weren't even telling them when they died in these schools.
Well, yeah, we just mentioned that on 2 weeks ago. They either received no news about it or very little.
And
they
it's
were
not
vague.
like they didn't look. You don't just give up. You don't go, my kid's gone,
exactly.
and never look for them. So
Right.
No,
I'm sure they buried the history and a lot of the documentation that would be there. But
the guy that started this, I could get his name in a minute. He was a Civil War veteran. Okay. Part of the policy initially, and I think it was held to for almost 100 years, was that the ideal distance was 1,500 miles.
Oh, my gosh.
child
That's
you
halfway
got-
across the country.
Yeah, because these people it's almost impossible.
Right. You
for
can't
them.
travel that far. They'll never get them back, and they'll never find them.
Right. And so for this area, for example, in Mount Pleasant, it was, I think, a lot of Sioux, and because that's Wyoming, it's Montana.
This is my point. From what I've been finding in my own research, for example, my mom was raised in Forest Hills, but she was supposedly adopted out of Menominee, which is all the way at the top of the state.
Yep.
The other 2 women I've spoken to who were adopted in the same decade as my mother through Catholic social services were also shipped across the state from where they were born and adopted out on the other side of the state. So that it definitely seemed to me to be strategic of
Listen,
separation.
you probe around there, Katy, you'll find as many bodies buried as there in Canada.
Yeah, I believe
You'll see one crime after another.
Yep.
My grandfather obviously was a white man. I mentioned this the last show. He was in an orphanage in he tells a story, by the way, I didn't mention this, where they would take the orphans to this big room. It was filled with crutches and old wheelchairs, and they'd say, these are all ex-people that were healed.
Oh.
They were healed by the power of God.
They could.
And they would, so they left their crutches here in this room. Now,
they don't
my
need 'em anymore.
grandfather, he wasn't Einstein, but he said, well,
No,
what
I wasn't
about
buying
us?
it.
You know, what about, this guy's got a club foot, this other guy bleeds out of his nose. Can we take some of that healing power? He couldn't figure out, none of that healing power went to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't make much sense to me either.
Yeah, and I think that's still there. I think that, if I'm not mistaken,
wow.
in Montreal, that building, the testimony of miracles, of course you can't do miracles, I always told people, hey, you got all these miracles. These evangelists go around. They remember they hit you in the forehead and knock you out.
The laying of hands.
Yeah. Take your little carcass into a hospital somewhere.
Yeah, go save
and
someone.
do your thing.
Right.
Take somebody with a hand cut off. Make that sucker go back. I'll put some money in your plate then.
I am all about it.
Yeah, but they want the money first.
Oh, that's the trick.
You know, like we talk about with Carlin. God just can't handle money.
It's like the dentist, man. I thought I'd get one over on him.
God,
They're like,
he's not good with money.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Good Lord. Yeah. Oh, well, but I was thinking we must be on the same wavelength today, Jack, because right before you started talking about the laying of hands, I was thinking about how these Donald Trump supporters, I'm waiting for Donald Trump to lay his grimy, greasy orange hands on his supporters. All right, you're going to believe in me. Shove him right by the head.
Well, you got to listen to the monikers within the Christian vocabulary, lexicon. Okay?
Yeah.
That's called being slain in the spirit, right? The most intelligent follower is called a sheep or a fish. Right?
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned that a few weeks ago on this show.
You take God gets ticked
the two
off.
symbols of Christianity, the fish and the sheep.
God gets mad and kills his own son, right? What assurance he won't have to kill you? If he killed his own son, how do you really have insurance he's not coming for you next?
Exactly.
Secondly, after he kills his own son, the Christians call it Good Friday. All you have to do is follow the language trail. No, I mean really.
No, honestly, it doesn't. It sounds like a big scam to me.
The only thing good about the whole holiday was the Easter basket for me.
Yeah.
I got sick because of all the chocolate, so I don't even got that.
Oh God! Yeah, Trump
I guess it's true. I'm never satisfied.
Trump putting his hand to some supporter's head and shoving him off. Reminds me of what Jim Cornette calls it on his podcast. It's the head palm shoot off into the. Oh, he hates that. That's not the proper way to shoot your opponent into the ropes. Yeah. You're supposed to grab them by the arm and put your hand on their back and then shove them into the ropes.
Oh, is that how that works?
You don't do the head palm shoot off.
Oh, remember that guy? There was some evangelist. All I can think of was Benny Hanna. That's not it.
Oh, Benny Hinn.
Benny Hinn. There you go.
Yeah. Oh God. There's video. You can find it on YouTube. Benny Hinn takes off his suit coat, his jacket, and goes wham, and he swings it at these people. They fall back like a line of dominoes. It's hilarious stuff.
Wave,
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Just crazy, crazy stuff. Speaking of crazy stuff, we might as well, since I mentioned Trump, more good news. Looks like Trump's attorney or his accountant, Weisselberg, 15 charges against the organization. They're hoping that he turns on Trump.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that something had to do with Trump actually dropping the actual numbers. Like,
what they were doing is they were taking these bonuses and reimbursements for apartments, and they weren't reporting them.
Wow.
So they had two sets of books going. One set of books that the IRS saw, and then their own internal set of books, not reporting this $1.7 million worth of rent payments on a big condo, car payments on a Mercedes-Benz.
But $1 million is nothing.
Yeah.
What a dummy.
I'm sure there's, there's more.
There's more. Hey, this is Al Capone on steroids, right? I mean, remember Al Capone got tripped up with just a few $1,000s tax evasion while he's slaughtering people across Chicago, right?
Absolutely.
Well, here Trump, he's in the same position. I mean, here's a guy that's got more graves than Capone does. So, it'll grow. They're still studying. They're still researching this.
Yeah.
Investigating, I guess, is the word.
Yeah. And then Trump calls it a witch hunt. Well, we haven't heard that phrase before, have we? And which son? Which one of the little bastards was on TV? Was it Donnie Jr.? The one with the beard and the mustache?
Good form today, Darren.
I hate them all. I hate them all.
Oh, I know. I do too.
A-tab.
I do too.
Them too.
Your last name, I do. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, me
no,
too.
I'm not sorry about it.
A-tab. All Trumps are.
I tell you what, the day that Trump drops over, I'm going to the bar and I'm toasting
Yeah.
good riddance, you son of a bitch.
If you can get
and
in.
I'm going to say it as loud as I can.
If you can get in, that'd be packed.
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't they sentence the bomber's dad up in Newaygo, the kid that took the bomb to school
I
just
haven't-
last week?
I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, I think they sent. There was a thing on Facebook. So I said, and they said, why would the dad be making a bomb with a son? And I go, hey, with repugs, it's a family tradition, right?
Right.
So this guy comes
Bonding.
back. Oh, the trouble is, he was a Biden supporter. I go, oh, really? Did you see the picture of the flags outside of his house? And he goes, well, no kidding. He's a Democrat. He's a Biden supporter. I mean, it was common knowledge. So the point is this. It's very, very simple. The stupidest morons that walk the face of the earth are Trumpers. There's no question about it.
Bingo.
The amount of people dying now in certain areas of the United States, they're all red Trumpers. Red areas of Missouri, Arkansas, there is still an epidemic raging because these morons have not gotten a shot. And if it comes back, they're the door that would be brought back on us.
Well, I tell you what, we might as well just get right into the next segment since I'm ready with the sound effects here. Let's play the appropriate music.
Stop! Hammer time!
Yeah, it's hammer time. It's time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. I found 2 winners this week, so every time that we have 2 winners, we got to play this segment.
The double douche. Who is that guy? Gentlemen? Wade Garrett. Holy sh**. Exactly right.
So here's what Wade Garrett has for us this week. Our first story is Mother Jones Magazine. This is Ine O writing for Mother Jones. This is dated June 24th. So winner number 1 this week is Dick Morris of Newsmax. Appropriate name for him. Mm-hmm. Here's the story here. The panic over critical race theory, the shorthand boogeyman conservatives have weaponized to vilify schools that examine the role of institutional racism in the United States, has seen its fair share of absurdity in recent months, particularly as Republican lawmakers across the country push bills effectively banning discussions of race in classrooms. But after General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, defended the study of critical race theory before Congress this week, a new and especially wild argument against CRT appears to have emerged. Speaking on Newsmax, contributor Dick Morris started with the usual GOP talking points, falsely accusing critical race theory of attempting to teach children that all white people are racist. But then Morris offered what he rather mildly described as a unique thought on the debate. Yeah, let's see if I can play this here. This runs about 1:25. Here we go, folks.
What do you make? I mean, this is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff making a comment like this. What do you make of that?
Incredible. This poison, critical race theory, this cancer, is affecting all of our institutions, the schools, the universities, the military, all over. And it's based on the fundamental proposition that all white people are racist, whether they are inherently that or not. Their background makes them racist.
Right.
Original sin, really.
Yeah.
And that all white people got where they got by exploiting blacks. I have a unique thought about that, though. What does this do to the children? What does this do to a kid? 1/4 of all black marriages are intermarriages racially.
Wow.
So what does that do to a black boy?
A black and white kid?
Whose mother is white and whose mother is black and whose father is white.
Right.
What does he think? My father exploited my mother and that's how he got successful? And if the couple breaks up, do they have to choose one over the other? Does it reinforce the Oedipal notion all kids have, wanting to kill their father and marry their mother? I mean, what does this do to the children? And to have a 4th grader sitting in class who might be white, being told that everything his family has and everything he enjoys and has accomplished is because they exploited other people. What a vicious thing to teach.
Wow. So he's using the Oedipus complex to justify the banning of critical race theory.
Critical race theory. Why are we calling it that? Why? And it's all of us calling it that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not thinking about it. We're just calling it that because people keep calling it that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
We
designed
need to ask ourselves
purposely.
why. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not critical race theory. We're just talking about discrimination and racism and bigotry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you start coining that term, now you can make it legal or illegal.
See,
or
remember we said just last week that
Yeah.
to the conservative, the word critical thinking means negative, critical.
Right.
So now they're using critical again.
race. You're absolutely right. Negative race thinking is
Critical
what they
is
want.
what they see.
Yep.
To the conservative, it means critical thinking about the race theory.
Yeah.
It's two roads.
Yeah. So the story continues here. The suggestion that by studying the role of racism in today's society, a child could develop sexual desires for the opposite sex parent, then feels thoughts of murder against the other parent is, as Morris puts it, unique.
Yeah,
Can we talk about what is wrong with the man who said that out loud? Because there's something going on with your mental health.
Yeah.
His
If
first
that
name,
thought crossed
Right.
your mind.
his first name says it all. Dick.
Yeah, I guess so. But just like you said, there was something wrong with Chauvin when you saw him on TV,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You listen to this guy for 10 seconds. You can see it again,
There's-
can't
yeah,
you?
he's traumatized. He's got something in his background that he needs to be healed from.
Exactly. And that's slain in the spirit. So now we use that.
Yeah, let me play this quote here. This is Mark Milley laying it into Matt Gaetz. This is why Dick Morris said this originally here.
I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university, and it is important that we train and we understand. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend? And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers, of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there. That was started at Harvard Law School years ago, and it proposed that there were laws in the United States, antebellum laws prior to the Civil War, that led to a power differential with African Americans that were 3/4 of a human being when this country was formed. And then we had a Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation to change it. And we brought it up to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It took another 100 years to change that. So look I do want to know. And I respect your service, and you and I are both Green Berets. But I want to know. And it matters to our military and the discipline and cohesion of this military.
Yeah, and Matt Gaetz was shaking his head, looking like Butthead from the cartoon.
Doesn't
he does. He
It's
looks
amazing.
like Butthead.
Yeah.
It's scary. Put him next to Eric Trump, you got Beavis and Butthead.
Truth.
Serious. So Dick Morris, winner number 1 this week. Winner number 2 is right in our own backyard. It is Muskegon County Commissioner Zach Laring. This is from Jacqueline Francis and Whitney Burney at Wood Television. This is dated June 29th. Protesters gathered outside the Muskegon County Administration Building Tuesday while inside commissioners debated a resolution to censure a member who posted a homophobic slur on Facebook. Commissioner Zach Laring, a Republican representing the southeastern portion of the county, posted to Facebook mocking fellow Commissioner Bob Skolnick. Skolnick, who chairs the board, is also a Republican and represents the Norton Shores area. The post questioned Skolnick's relationship to the LGBTQ community and one used a slur. They have since been removed. Ahead of the Tuesday meeting, Laring told News 8 that he has no regrets or apologies. During the meeting, he said he was exercising his right to free speech in his posts. Laring said, quote, I've been insulted and offended, and I'm not raising a debacle about it. They have a First Amendment right. I have a First Amendment right. It's called freedom of speech. End of quote.
Yep.
Commissioners voted 5-4 Tuesday to send the censure resolution to the Human Resources Committee, who will decide whether the resolution will go before the full board for a final vote. The vote would happen in 2 weeks. During the meeting, Commissioner Melinda Pago said while she doesn't condone name-calling, this is a free speech issue. Other commissioners said it should be up to Laring's constituents to censure him through voting. Well, I'm going to stop there. No, because most voters, I'll just say it right here, most voters are stupid. They go by name recognition. They don't do the research.
But here's the thing. Couldn't the county remove him for harassment?
I don't think it's. I think about the only one that could remove him would be the governor.
Okay,
under state law.
Because that's interesting, because I was drafted a 2-page letter from the city attorney regarding distracting at the meeting or personal attacks, anything like that.
2-page letter.
Yes.
Wow.
And they said it could be cause for removal from the board. So interesting if that's not true.
Wow.
I got to say this. I am so proud that we have a woman sitting at this table, an intelligent woman who mixes reading, research, her experience to bring to us a female's perspective. It's lacking across our society. I just can't tell you how I was moved by her story. I'm talking about Katy right here, where she has been abused for weeks trying to get a damn car fixed, a simple car repair. They won't hear her pleas because it's presented from a female.
Right.
And she's asking a male, not me by the way, a male, to go and help because they'll listen to the male. Yeah. It's that simple.
You
we
can
don't
just have
need
a guy speak for you.
But
you know?
Jack, is not just in the automotive repair business. It's in the medical field too. That's really
across
bad.
The board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
The siding industry. I was just talking with your girlfriend about it yesterday. She deals with the same thing.
Yeah, but they listen to me.
Right.
They asked. They said, we can't deal with you.
Right.
Can you put Jack on the phone?
And she will literally be relaying your words.
Oh God.
Yeah,
but they can't deal with them from her. Only from you. It is crazy to me.
West Michigan Construction Company.
Misogynistic.
Medicine.
Yeah, everywhere
Politics.
around here. It's like, and it's getting worse. I never used to see it as something I needed to focus on first. I thought there were so many other issues that were more important, but now that you see how connected they all are and how this is used to maintain power in all the other situations, that's when you really do have to start noticing it and pointing it out and not being, feeling guilty about it, which tends to happen, I think.
Don't forget, Jesus came from a single-parent family.
That's true. Very true. So
and don't forget that Eve came from Adam's rib.
Yeah, but there was no female God.
If you
and there was
believe
no
that.
sex involved in the conception.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah. By the way, if you want a good laugh, the best comic that talks about the Immaculate Conceptions, the late great Sam Kinison.
Oh yeah, I remember. His dad was a preacher.
Oh really?
He was too. He was too for a while.
Oh, was he really?
Then he got into comedy.
So he got
and
that
look
crazy
what
high
happened
pitched
there.
voice.
I mean, where would it bring you? If I tried to go into preaching, I'd probably end up a comedian too.
Oh God.
Let me know if you're headed that way, please.
Will do.
I can hook you up with stage work. So can Joe Elder. God.
West Michigan's first nude church.
No, there's not a lot of religious comics around. I mean,
true.
really, there could be a
you never know.
Yeah.
Continuing the story here, Commissioner Doug Brown, who represents District 8, told News 8, quote, "This is political in nature, and I think we need to move on with county business and work on those issues and move forward," end of quote. Censure is a largely symbolic move. Even if the board votes to censure him, Laring wouldn't lose his job, but some commissioners say it will send a message. Commissioner Charles Nash, who represents District 6, said, quote, "I don't mind opposition, but it's just very divisive, and it's to the point where it's almost embarrassing for us as commissioners and a lot of people in the community, especially when it starts impacting our county as a whole. We've got people talking about not bringing their friends here, not renting here. We don't have any other recourse but a censure. So if that's all we have, then let's just send the message," end of quote. Well, I agree with not bringing your friends to Muskegon County, not renting, not living.
Right?
Hey, economic pressure works because money talks and bullshit walks. That's the bottom line to everything. It really is. Oh, gosh. So it just goes on and on and on. And of course, this happens right at the end of Pride Month. So
yesterday was Canada Day.
Channel 8 talked to Skolnick. He brushed off his fellow commissioner's comments before. He said this time Laring took it too far. Skolnick said, quote, I ignored him because I didn't want to draw attention to him and give him a bigger platform. Well, then he posted this thing about being a little queer and having a foot fetish.
Wow.
He pushed me too far. You want to start a war? Sure, I'll start a war. End of quote. So, yeah, I encourage protest after protest at every single Muskegon County Commission until this asshole is gone.
And keep
Force
protesting
him
after
out.
that, because you got bigger problems than him.
Systemic.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a symptom of the problem.
exactly. He is one sign of much worse underneath. So start there.
Yeah. So for Dick Morris and Zach Laring, congratulations on winning your awards this week. We have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
Yeah, that's right. You both need to stop being douchebags. Although I guess they can't help it. They're both violent conservatives. What do you expect, right?
Exactly.
Oh, jeez.
You're being redundant again.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Oh, boy. Speaking of, we might as well get to a little bit of this here. A couple of court stories here I want to get to. We'll give you the good news first. The first one is David Ingram writing for NBC News. This is dated June 30th. A federal judge Wednesday put on hold a first-of-its-kind law in Florida that authorized the state to penalize social media companies when they ban political candidates. So they're saying, oh, you're going to ban him? We're going to fine you $250,000 a day. Well, let me see here. Telling businesses how to run their business. It would be something else if they would do what I've been preaching, what we've been preaching on the show. Social media companies, public utility. That's how you fix it. That's the only fix.
Yeah, it needs to happen.
So
there's very little public utility work left. It's all been
There's
contracted
nothing.
out.
Yeah, there's nothing.
yeah.
I've honestly been trying to think of anything we have left, and the post office is such a mess, but that's probably the last example
one.
we even have.
Yeah. Yeah, the government basically.
The government agencies themselves even. I mean, they're literally privatizing like county commissions at this point. It's in the city commission. And what is downtown Grand Rapids Inc. if it's not a
sewage
privatized
work, everything. It's a
Yeah,
private
all the
company.
infrastructure,
in
yeah.
Rockford somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. The bad news, this is Sam Baker writing for Axios. This is dated July 1st. The U.S. Supreme Court upheld a pair of voting restrictions in Arizona, likely paving the way for new limitations across the country. It's the court's biggest voting rights decision in several years. Conservatives' victory in the 6-3 ruling authored by Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito is a sign of what's to come. The case concerned two voting restrictions in Arizona. The state invalidates ballots that are cast in the wrong precinct, and it also bans the practice known as ballot harvesting, in which third parties collect and return other people's ballots. That scares the hell out of me, because you don't know. Really, you don't. They could say
really
that they're
don't know
this.
anyway.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make sense to me. Why do we not have a database? Why can't we go in and check our votes and see if they're there and they're how we voted?
Could be done.
You can actually in the state of
Easily.
Michigan, you can check to see that your ballot was received if you voted absentee.
Right, but I just feel like there should be a grid, a
Yeah.
database, you know?
Or better yet,
And
a
I
receipt.
can go and see how I
Yeah.
voted every year.
Yeah. Or a receipt. You
Yeah.
get a receipt, it goes in a database.
Yeah.
I don't mean what's more important, privacy or democracy? You know,
I can ask for a used car on Facebook and I'll get 30 car lots within 15 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
There's
my
databases
God.
for everything. They've got every single thing we've ever done marked down somewhere, but not my voting? I'm confused.
Democrats argued that the rules against ballot harvesting disproportionately affected voters of color. They said the ballot harvesting, for example, is particularly useful to the state's native population because polling places can be far away. Mail service is not always reliable. Yeah, leave it to the white man to always screw over the indigenous folks, whether it's taking their children and killing them in these schools after raping them, to stealing their land to stealing everything from them. Now we're stealing their votes or making it harder for them to vote, which might as well be the same at this point.
Yeah, now they're investigating the insurrection.
Yeah.
And there's not a Republican, I think there were two, that said they supported the investigation. Think of the amount of separation between reality and that vote alone. What is it? I think the guy here, Meyer was
Peter
one of them.
Meyer, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and now
Out of 190 Republicans.
And now Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader in the House, is saying that any Republican that gets on this committee, you're going to be stripped of your committee assignments.
Well, I've got people calling Peter Meyer a rhino.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, what
and
world
we know
is
better.
this?
Yeah.
What world is this?
It's Trump world. That's what it is. If you're not loyal to Trump, you might as well just get out, according to those people.
Jeez.
People like my former middle brother. I've mentioned that on this show before. Oh.
But at least Peter Meyer's a decent guy. I can't tell you how many leftists have dropped that line on me.
Exactly.
Like,
No,
what?
he ain't.
What?
No, he ain't.
Did we grow up in the
Hardcore.
same state?
Yeah. Katie, I got a question, though. As we pull out of Afghanistan, what is the Republican reaction since Trump initiated that, right?
Ooh, I
How do
haven't
you
heard a
get
word.
militarism, the traditional support? They're like frozen. They don't know what to say, do they?
That's really interesting. I don't think I've heard anybody even address it.
Meyer,
Yeah,
none of these guys.
I haven't
Nobody.
either.
If it's good or bad.
Yeah, they generally are the first ones to be like, we can't pull out troops.
You can't
We
do
got to
that.
give them 1 million more. But
Right.
for whatever reason, I believe I remember when that first happened, me thinking that they wanted to bring them home because they were going to deploy them to a new war.
Yeah.
And that is still a real concern for me. And if they're not saying anything, that definitely
Right.
almost affirms
Right.
that.
I think so.
Wow.
And see, and the neoliberal Biden, he goes, "Hey, I can move now because I got a backup.
Yup,
They can't attack me
exactly.
for pulling out of there, which they should have done decades ago."
And I've got my guys here ready to send
Yep.
them anywhere they need to go.
Meanwhile, the women there are going to be slaughtered,
Oh,
right? And
Oh,
the
yeah.
translators.
And the translators.
They're leaving a complete hole in power, and which is going to just be devastating to the people there.
But they never should have been there in the first place.
Exactly, it was all devastation from the jump.
They
and it was
can't
just
even
to
lie that the
steal their
objective was
resources.
made because they never stated the damn objective.
Right.
They started October the 1st, 2001. That's 19 years, 8 months, and we never realized or even articulated an objective.
No. All we knew was that people were still scared about 9/11, and it was a great time to go over there and steal anything we could get our hands on.
Yeah, and make a lot of money through the arms companies.
Oil, opium,
And
'cause-
the infrastructure thing too. They're trying really hard to do this global infrastructure, and you kind of need all of these countries involved to be able to do that, or at least to be able to get in there and dig up their land.
And since you mentioned Afghanistan, Jack, we'd be remiss as we wrap up today's show if we didn't mention that the architect of the Afghanistan
That's right.
war, Donald Rumsfeld, passed away this week.
Yep.
I don't believe in heaven or hell, but if I did, I hope he's on a spit roasting right now.
And I'm just
Old
gonna wish
Rummy.
best
Good
of-
riddance to Rummy.
Good luck to all of us down here, because we all know when power like that dies,
It comes back.
it comes back in a
Worse.
different form.
Yeah.
Worse usually. So
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, unfortunately, I would have to agree with you there because we've seen it. We've seen it far too many times.
I'm watching a huge shift since
You
we
say
lost
some good
Sekia,
things, but you just
locally.
don't know anything about cars. That's the problem.
Really bad at pitching.
You're a woman.
Are we going to have an update next week on your car? Is that possible?
if I can talk about it, then yes. The anger I'm trying to deal with. So
World politics, no problem. Cars,
Yeah.
you got it with a car.
We're out of time for this week. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katy Steele.
I'm Jack Prince.
Please support independent media and the First
The
Amendment.
stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.